In this meditation session, you'll be guided through the practice of exchanging self and other. Essentially, Shantideva is asking us to exchange place with others and to experience their emotions directly, using them as our vehicle for awakening insight and compassion. This practice is useful as a tool for countering our self-cherishing and grasping, and can have profoundly transformative effects. So during this session, you'll be invited to work with others whom you perceive to be, respectively, inferior, equal, and superior to yourself in some way. Remember to go slowly and know that this practice takes time. Stop the recording at any time if you feel you need more time to go deeper into the meditation. And don't worry about doing it perfectly. Know that this practice of doing the exchange will feel more familiar and bring more benefits after doing it several times. So begin first by just finding a comfortable meditation posture, sitting upright, while also being relaxed and at ease. So really feel the connection of your seat with your chair or your cushion. Let your shoulders be just open and relaxed for whatever may come up for you during this meditation. And take a few deep, calming breaths, just aware of the sensation of the body breathing. And just let the mind relax. So now to begin, first bring to mind someone whom you'd consider to be less than you in some respect. And perhaps the first time you do the reflection, you start with someone who's maybe less well off economically, maybe someone who's homeless. Perhaps when you're doing this meditation another time later, you might pick somebody who's closer to you, a family member, a work colleague, maybe someone you hire to help with work around your home. Someone where you feel like maybe in the relationship with this person, somehow you have more power than them. So that can be very fruitful, but the first time you do it, maybe start with just imagining someone who is homeless, who's living on the street. So bring to mind a person, and you can imagine someone who might be homeless. And as you hold this person in your mind, imagine that you are this person. So mentally step into their shoes. You become the poor person. Perhaps you live on the streets where supposedly well-meaning middle-class people like the real you scoot on by without even noticing this imagined poor you. Just putting yourself in the shoes of this poor person and allowing yourself to feel your thoughts and emotions when you look at your real self with her or his comfort, wealth, respect, all the things that this real you has, while this imaginary you on the street struggles just to survive. You know, what might this feel like to this you who's living on the streets? And as this poor person, allow yourself to feel the envy. Perhaps there's some resentment or shame that might arise in the presence of the real you. Allow yourself to embody your experience fully as this poor person, just to really feel what it's like when this is you and how you feel, particularly relative to your real self who has so much by comparison. Perhaps imagining what it feels like, you as the poor person, to not really even be looked at or seen by the real you and other people that are just moving quickly by. How it feels to not feel respected. To not even be sure how you're going to feed yourself, find safety and shelter. But particularly how it feels in relationship to the real you who's just, maybe you perceive has it easy. Maybe feeling the envy. Maybe feeling some resentment. Now dropping this imagined self and coming back to the real you as you are today, and just noticing what arises for you when you're on the receiving end of this imagined person's intense emotions. How does it feel to be on the receiving end of envy, of resentment, perhaps someone who's feeling shame? How does the real you feel when you're more aware of these difficult emotions that come up from this person that maybe you consider to be less than you in some respect? So by appreciating the suffering involved in being a poor and insignificant person, or at least that's how often these people are perceived, the real you can come to realize how wrong it is to be arrogant and scornful. It may dawn on you how unpleasant it is for someone in a humble position to be when you are proud and arrogant towards them. So you might vow to be more mindful of treating those less fortunate or less powerful than you, to treat them with more respect, not to denigrate them, and to provide them with sustenance, with clothing, with support, whenever it's possible for you to help them in practical ways. So just noticing how that exchange felt. Any insights? Does your heart open it all a bit more, perhaps, with compassion? And how might you relate differently to these persons in the future? And take a moment to just drop that reflection, just rest the mind. You're just Relax, aware of the body breathing. No need to focus on anything, just letting the mind be at ease. And so next, bring to mind someone who you'd consider to be of roughly equal status as you. Someone with whom you feel competitive with in some way. It could be a friend, an acquaintance, a colleague, family member. And now imagine yourself as this other person. Really step into their shoes and become them. And as this other person, feel that sense of competitiveness when looking at your real self. You are the other person feeling how they feel as they look at sort of the real you. And the competitiveness they feel, which could be over status, looks, wealth, power, whatever. As this imagined self in their shoes, feel a sense of pride, cultivate a sense of competitiveness. Maybe feel that frenetic energy of trying to do better than the real you. Of wanting to boast of your own accomplishments while ignoring or minimizing the accomplishments of the real you. This imagined you wanting to be the center of attention. Maybe feeling the burn of jealousy towards the real you, or maybe the glee when the real you, the competitor, screws up. So just allow yourself to feel this experience as strongly as possible when you step into the shoes of somebody who might be competitive with the real you. How does it feel to be them and to feel some jealousy, that real striving competitiveness with the real you? And now dropping this imagined exchange and coming back to being the real you. And again, noticing what arises for you when you're on the receiving end of such strong emotions from the imagined you, the one who's competitive with the real you. How does it feel to be kind of receiving those emotions? The pride, the competitiveness, the jealousy maybe. Really noticing the suffering coming from this imagined you who's feeling these strong feelings. And maybe noticing, your own actual self-absorption in competitive situations. Recognizing your own faults in being competitive with others. Your own desires to be the center of attention, to minimize the accomplishments of others, maybe the boasting about your own, wanting to be center stage. We can recognize that these same emotions and thoughts come up in us too and create suffering. And maybe seeing that, we can soften, have a friendlier attitude towards those we feel competitive with, and even wish for the success and happiness of the other. Sharing in their success and happiness, seeing that as a source of our own success and happiness, and not seeing ourselves as so separate and always at odds with other beings. So just notice what comes up for you in this particular exchange of someone who's more equal but perhaps competitive with you. And now once again, just rest the mind, let go of this reflection. Just take a few moments to let the mind just be open and at ease. And now lastly, please bring to mind a person who you would consider to be better off in some way than you are. So this could be, for example, a superior at work. Could be a wealthy, successful person in your family or your neighborhood. Maybe their house is much bigger than yours, their car's nicer, they make a lot more money, they have a lot of power. Just in some way, the sense of a person who's better off than you. And once you have someone specific in mind, just imagine yourself as this superior feeling person. Step into this person's shoes. Imagine that you are this person that in some way feels superior to the real you in some aspect of their lives. And imagine this superior feeling person kind of looking down at your real self. So you are the superior feeling person, you're kind of looking down at your real self, and you notice maybe how gratifying it is, whether it's due to your intelligence, your good looks, your social class, or your wealth, that you feel superior and better than the real you and maybe other people. So see if you can feel that sense of superiority and the emotions that come along with that. Maybe a sense of pride, accomplishment, maybe a bit of arrogance. Just see if you can embody this imagined superior person who's now you. Embody this perspective and these feelings as much as you can. See if you can feel what that sense of superiority, particularly in relationship with the real you, how that sense of superiority feels. And now just letting go of this imagined exchange and coming back to the real you and noticing what arises for you when you are on the receiving end of this imagined superior self's arrogance, scorn, perhaps condescension. Just notice what comes up for you in that relationship. Perhaps some jealousy, some resentment. How does it feel to be on the receiving end of pride and arrogance? Maybe feeling that this other sees themselves as better than you. What comes up for you? And then just stepping back and seeing how the real you, as well as the imagined you, and all beings may experience these same feelings of pride and arrogance towards others when we view ourselves as better than, or jealousy and resentment when we feel less than. Seeing these all as kind of postures of self and just having compassion for the suffering that these postures create. And just seeing everyone more compassionately and vowing to treat them more respectfully. And with awareness, just recognizing the pain and suffering that all of these different types of people experience, whether they're people that we see as less than, equal to, greater than. Just reflect on the universality of suffering. Allow the truth of this to sink in. And now with greater insight, just ask yourself, how can I live with more compassion for all beings and their suffering? And now letting go of this practice and just bringing your palms together in front of your heart. And we can dedicate the merit from this practice. Just thinking to yourself, may whatever merit that I've created during this meditation be dedicated to the well-being of all beings, both near and far away.